Hello, students, and happy Earth Day, which brings us to our prompt, which is about Earth Day. Our objective in math is to review factoring, and our review topics include a difference of squares, the basic trinomials, the trinomials with the leading coefficient, and the four-term polynomials we've just covered. I need you to complete your do now. We have 2 pages today to work on. Complete your exit ticket. And if you're a distance learner, please submit your work on Teams. If you are in person today, I will come around and look at your work. I have a homework for you, homework 11, factoring polynomials. There are many problems, okay, of mixed polynomials. It's a lot of work. What I'm asking you to do is to try a few of representative sample of each type. So make sure that you do those and then save others of them for before your test, which is next Wednesday. So it's a lot of problems, but do a few of each type. And then Tuesday night, you have those others to study with before your test. We'll get back to your exit ticket. But in honor of Earth Day today, we're asking what actions are you willing to take to make the world an environmentally better place? Are you willing to petition your elected officials to introduce or pass legislation to ban those single-use plastics? So would you be willing to write letters or things like that? Would you mobilize a boycott of a company or organization that is contributing to the plastic pollution? Let's think about that. You're willing to give up the Diet Coke in the single-use bottles so that you can do a better thing for the earth. Or are you willing to advocate for change in another way? So tell us your thoughts right there. So let's get started with that mixed factoring. And you've been given a lot of rules and a lot of tricks on how to do these, but let's look at some high level thought processes that you can go through. And that would be the following. The first thing you want to do is check for a greatest common factor. Okay. And once you've done that, then see what do you have left? Do you have a difference of squares, a basic trinomial where you find two numbers that add to b and multiply to c? Do you have one of those slip and slide trinomials with a leading coefficient? Or is it a four-term polynomial where you can use grouping? Now, after you've done that, check to see if you can, again, still factor, because sometimes you can factor again. So let's use those rules and let's put them to work for us. So in number 1, I'm going to factor out a 7b, which will give me 4a squared minus 9. And 4a squared minus 9 is a difference of squares, so I can factor that. So that's an example of factoring again. And that will be 2a plus 3, 2a minus 3. Remember the difference of squares rule. And that's our final answer. Number 2, let's factor out a 3, which gives us m squared plus 3m minus 10. And we need two numbers that add to 3 and multiply to negative 10. So that will be a positive and a negative. And if we have positive 5 and negative 2, that'll get us there. So our final answer will be 3, m plus 5, m minus 2. So number 3, we have 4 terms. So let's go ahead and group them. And we can factor out an x squared, which will give us x plus 2y. And in the second binomial that's left, we can factor out a negative 4, which will again leave us with x plus 2y in parentheses. Then let's put the x squared minus 4 as a binomial multiplied by x plus 2y. And in looking at this, I see that x squared minus 4 is a difference of squares. So that will be, okay, so we're going to factor that. That will be our x plus 2, x minus 2, and then we have that x plus 2y And that is a final answer for that problem. Oops, I don't know what happened. Let me write it again. Okay, x plus 2, x minus 2, x plus 2y. Okay, number 4. With number 4, I believe we will use slip and slide. So multiply 4 times negative 2 to give us y squared plus 7y minus 8. We need two numbers that add to 7 and multiply to negative 8. So we will use 8 and negative 1. So that will give us y plus 8, y minus 1, and then we're going to divide both of those by that leading coefficient of 4. And that would give us y plus 8 divided by 4 is 2. And now this 4 slides up in front of y. That would be 2y minus 1. And that's our final answer. I'm sorry, why did I write a 2? I'm sorry about that. 4y minus 1. Okay, number 5. Let's factor out 3w, which will give us 15w to the 4th power minus 1, which is prime, and we cannot factor this any further. And number 6, 24x squared y squared minus 6xy squared plus 3xy, we can factor out a 3xy, which will give us 8xy minus 2y plus 1. And that is prime. The 8xy minus 2y plus 1 cannot be factored further. That part is prime. So let's move on to number 7. I'll get a new color here. I think we can factor out a 4x squared. So let's do that. 4x squared, which leaves us with 2x squared minus x minus 6. And we're going to use slip and slide for this. So we're going to multiply the 2 times the negative 6. I'm going to work over here. I think we need a lot of room for this one. So we've got 4x squared and times 2x squared minus x minus 6. And then we'll do slip the 2 over, multiply it by the 6 for 4x squared, x squared minus x minus 12. And now we need two numbers that multiply to negative 1 and add to negative 1 and multiply to negative 12. So it's going to be a positive and a negative. So negative 4 and positive 3 will work for us. So let's go ahead and continue our work with x minus 4, x plus 3. And now we're going to take that coefficient of 2 and divide both of these factors by 2, which will give us 4x squared times x minus 2, because 4 divided by 2 is 2, and x plus 3 over 2, which cannot be simplified, but the 2 will slide up in front of the x. So we will have, and let me write this back in the original box for number 7. Let's finalize this. It will be 4x squared times x minus 2, and then with the 2 sliding up in front of the x, 2x plus 3, and that is a final answer for number 7. So for number 8, we certainly can factor out a 4, which would leave us with 16x squared minus y squared, which is a difference of squares. So let's apply the difference of squares rule. That would be 4x plus y 4x minus y. And that's our final answer. And then number 9, we have 4 terms. So let's factor by grouping. First, we'll factor x squared out to leave us with, or factor, x squared, which will leave us with x plus 3. Okay, so be aware, we've got that x plus 3. That's going to clue us into what we factor out with the second binomial, the negative 5x minus 15. So let's factor out the negative 5. And remember, we're left with x, okay? But when we divide negative 15 by negative 5, it's plus 3. So that works for us. So now we have x squared minus 5 times x plus 3, and our work is done. That's the final answer. And then we have a straight trinomial with no leading coefficient in number 10. So we need 2 numbers that add to negative 6 and multiply to negative 16. So we're going to need a positive and a negative, and that would be negative 8 and a positive 2. So that will be k plus 8, k minus 2, and our work is done for that one. So let's move on to the second page. So in number 11, the first thing I want to do is factor out an a. That would leave me with b squared minus 1, which is a difference of squares. So a times the quantity of b plus 1, b minus 1. And that's our final answer for that problem. In number 12, I think slip and slide because we have that leading coefficient of 9. So 9 times 4 is 36. So that would be y squared minus 12y plus 36. And now we need 2 numbers that multiply to positive 36 and add to negative 12. So that would be negative 6, negative 6. So that gives us y minus 6, y minus 6. Okay, now we have to divide by the leading coefficient of 9, which would give us y minus 2/3, y minus 2/3, and then we will slip that 3 up in front of the y in both cases, or slide, that's the slide, which would give us 3y minus 2 times 3y minus 2, and we can write that as 3y minus 2 squared, which would be our final answer. So number 13, let's factor out 6 and an a for 4b plus 5c, and that's it. We cannot do anything else with that. In number 14, we have 4 terms, so we'll factor by grouping. Change the color there. So in the first 2 terms, let's factor out a 9x squared to give us x plus y. And in the second term, we're going to factor out a negative 1 to give us x plus y. So negative divided by negative is a positive. So that would give us 9x squared minus 1 times the quantity of x plus y. And our work is not done because 9x squared minus 1 is a difference of squares. So we can represent that as 3x plus 1, 3x minus 1, and then we have our x plus y. And then our work is done. Okay, number 15, we can factor out an x. We'll start there to give us x squared minus 10x. Let me clean up my work a little bit. plus 21. And we need two numbers that add to negative 10 and multiply to positive 21. So we're going to need two negative numbers so that we can get that positive 21. So that would be negative 7 and negative 3. So we've factored out the x minus 7, x minus 3, and that is our final answer. So number 16, I see that we can factor out a 6 and a y, which would leave us with y squared minus 25, which is a difference of squares. So we'll have 6y times the quantity of y plus 5, y minus 5, and that is a fully factored polynomial. Okay, so number 17, 8m squared plus 2m minus 3. Let's use slip and slide. We have that leading coefficient. So this will give us m squared plus 2m, and 8 times 3, that's going to be a negative 24. And we need two numbers that add to 2 and multiply to negative 24. So we're going to need a positive and a negative. So that would be a positive 6 and a negative 4. So that would be m plus 6, m minus 4. Now we need to take that leading coefficient of 8 and use it as our new denominator under these factors. And when we simplify, we will have m plus 3/4, m minus 1/2, and now we can slide the 4 in front of the m and the 2 in front of the m, and our final answer will be 4m plus 3, 2m minus 1. That's a slip and slide. Number 18, let's factor out a 2, which would give us w squared plus 19w plus 70. And now what we need is two numbers that add to 19 and multiply to 70, and they'll both be positive. So that would be 14 and 5. They add to 19, and 14 times 5 is 70. So that would be 2w plus 14, w plus 5. And that completes number 18. So number 19, let's factor out 5xy to give us x squared minus 1, which is a difference of squares. So 5xy times x plus 1, x minus 1. And that is finished. And number 20 is a difference of squares. So that's a little easier for us. So the square root of 100 is 10. The square root of 9y squared is 3y. So 10 minus 3y, 10 plus 3y. And our work is done. Number 21, we have 4 terms. So let's work with that. Let's group them. And in the first binomial, we have 5a squared plus 10ab. So let's factor out a 5a, which leaves us with a plus 2b. And in the second one, let's factor out a negative 3, which would also leave us with a plus 2b. And our final answer will be 5a minus 3 times a plus 2b. And that is a final answer. So number 22 is, looks like it's going to take a bit of room. I think I'm going to do number 22 over here. So we have 75x squared minus 30x plus 3. The first thing I want to do is factor out a 3. So that would be 25x squared minus 10x plus 1. And then I will use slip and slide. So I'm going to multiply the a value times the c value. So that would be 3 times the quantity of x squared minus 10x plus 25. Now I need two numbers that add to negative 10 and multiply to 25. They're going to have to both be negative, so that would be negative 5 and negative 5. They add to negative 10 and multiply to a positive 25. So 3x minus 5, x minus 5. Now I need to go back to that leading coefficient of 25 and divide these factors by 25, because my goal is to get the new leading coefficient for my fully factored binomials there. So let's simplify. So there would be x minus 1/5, x minus 1/5. I simplified those fractions. And now I will take that denominator of 5, slide it up in front of the x to give me 3 times the quantity, 5x minus 1, 5x minus 1. And finally, one last thing that I can do with this, in fact, I'll do it over here at number 22. I can write this as 3 times the quantity of 5x minus 1 squared. So that's why I need a lot of room for that one. Okay, number 23 is a straightforward trinomial. I need two numbers that add to negative 7 and multiply to negative 78. There'll be a positive and a negative. The larger number will be negative in terms of absolute value. And if I work with negative 13 and positive 6, they will add to negative 7 and multiply to 78. So this will be x minus 13, x plus 6. And remember, you can FOIL these, and if you get back to the original problem, you know that your answer checks, and I believe all these will. So finally, in the last problem here, let's factor out, let's see, 4x squared y minus 24xy plus 36xy. So I can factor out a 4, and I can factor out a y, which will give me x squared minus 6x plus 9. And I need two numbers that multiply to 9, positive 9, and add to negative 6. So I need two negative numbers, and that would be negative 3 and negative 3. So I'm going to have 4y, x minus 3, x minus 3, and I can rewrite that as 4y, x minus 3 squared. And that's our final answer on our final problem. For your homework, please make sure to do a few of each type of problem tonight. It's a great review. I did give you some, after your homework, I have your, a little, if you want to make an Earth Day street art mural, or you do this, solve this fallen phrase when you need a break later today before your homework. I also have the answers for last night's homework, so you can check those. So let's go to our exit ticket, and we have a trinomial, 16q to the third minus 48q squared plus 32q. Let's factor out 16 and q to the first power, which leaves us with q squared minus 3q plus 2. And what we need to do is, it's a straightforward trinomial now, so we need to find two numbers that add to negative 3 and multiply to positive 2. So that would be two negative numbers, negative 2 and negative 1. So we have 16q, q minus 2 Q minus 1, and that is a final answer. So, a lot of work you've been doing. You've been very engaged in class. I appreciate all your hard work. You're doing well. And remember, practice, 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 because that's the only way that you'll be great.